Welcome back to Firestone Forge. I just got done shooting the intro video and I'm jumping straight into this next part. But before I do show you the next part, I kind of want to tell you about what I've done so far. So I've lived in this thing for about 4 months now, I want to say. And in that time, I had already had the receipts removed. I got the radiator heaters removed, and I got most of the flooring removed. There's still a small portion at the front of the bus near the engine, as well as the steps going down. I'm okay with that for right now. Eventually I will clear that out and do something new and fresh. I would love to do a roof raise on this thing, but unfortunately right now I don't have the finances or the place to be able to do it. Living out here in the woods, part of the problem is fire danger. And fire safety, of course. So, I mean, I could go at this thing with an angle grinder. I could do the stuff. Unfortunately, I couldn't weld anything unless I got a bigger generator. But the other problem is that too much danger of catching things on fire. So, that's something we have to look into in our build. Looking forward to that end goal, having to work in stages in a different manner. Welcome back. We're currently inside the bus, as you can probably tell. Now, at this stage here, I have to move out everything of the bus that I'm using to live, like my food, my bed, my cooking table, everything, except for the wood stove, which isn't fully installed, so I can move it. The process is, I have to move everything out in order to spray foam. And then I have to, before I can spray foam, I also have to tape off with some visqueen, plastic painter's tarp, whatever you'd like to call it, the flooring section that I have at the very back, so that way it doesn't get overspray on it. Now, I've never used this product before, so I'm trying to follow as much of the instructions as I can, of course, as well as wearing safety protective equipment. I have a Tyvek suit that I will be wearing, as well as a respirator and, of course, goggles. I have nitrile gloves to protect me as well. Now, it's going to be an interesting process. I've used small cans of spray foam before many times, so the process isn't so hard to understand. The other thing is that I've watched several videos on people doing the same thing, and you have to worry about overspray and overfilling the wall cavities and things like that, because you want the canisters to be able to go as far as you can. The walls are 2-inch thick, and each one of the bays is, I think it's 26 inches by 30 inches. Now the kit, there was some discrepancy on how much it would do. For example, the online, on the Home Depot website, looking at the kit, Handy Foam, it's the Handy Foam 200, okay? Now, looking at it, was $419, and it said it would do 200 square foot. Now, the bus, by 8 foot by 40 foot, is about, like, if memory serves, 360 square feet. Now, with that being said, there are several areas that are A, kind of unusable, and B, I can't spray foam right now. What I mean is, the ceiling, of course, still has the metal, so that one's not getting done at the moment. That's for after the roof raise. The other thing is, the windows are all still in the bus. So, I'm going to insulate over those with bubble wrap and Reflectix, and then, get some nice curtains up there to kind of help block a little bit more of the cold. But for right now, the spray foam insulation will just go beneath the windows. I'm going to have to use a secondary kit down the road. The chemicals in the kit say that it needs to be at 70 degrees to work correctly. They have color changed nozzles. If the chemicals are too cold, below 60 degrees, they start turning blue. Before putting in the spray foam, I wanted to make sure that everything was nice and clean. So I used the vacuum, as you see here, down in the wells. There was a lot of dirt and pieces of the fiberglass insulation in there, and it plugged up my vacuum cleaner a couple of times. If you do it, definitely make sure to clean it out. Keep an eye on it. Also, there are some rivets coming through the little well piece right there, and that can kind of slow some things down. So it took me the better part of the day, but I got the bus completely cleared out. I vacuumed each one of the bays to make sure that it was completely clear of any extra insulation, and also made sure to remove all the little rivets that were sticking through. Now, the product says that Handy Foam, it says that it needs each canister to be shaken for a minute. Well, they're kind of connected with this little handle. I can remove the handle, but I kind of want to keep it on there so that way I can go, move this thing a little easier. It comes with 10 nozzles that are color change. If the nozzles are blue, it's going to be too cold for the product. Apparently you take a little bit of petroleum jelly and you put it here on the end of the nozzle, or the end of the spray gun, and then you put your nozzle on there, and that'll actually act as a barrier from the two chemicals mixing back here. They'll mix in the tube and then you're good to go. So I'm going to get this fired up, I'm going to shake it, and I'm going to get the nozzles on there, and I'll try and show you that. And then I'm going to go start hosing down. Alright, so here's some petroleum jelly. I'm just going to place that here inside the nozzle area. I don't know how much to use, but I'm going to go a little liberal on it. Okay, and then we clip that guy on there. But if you remove this tip, it'll go from fan to straight spray. I'm going to want the fan.
Luke, I am your father. Come with me to the dark side of the Force. We have cookies. I'm just kidding. So, all suited up, ready to go. I'm going to actually do behind the fireplace first, simply because if I have to heat that up to warm this place up, I want to be able to do so.
Well, good news, bad news. Good news is this stuff works pretty good. Bad news is a lot of overspray, knocked the camera over while I was trying to move around and stuff like that, so a little bit bad in planning. And more bad news, I ran out. The canister said it would do 200 square foot on the Home Depot website, but on the website for the actual product, it would say it would do about 200 board feet. Now, board feet are different. They're 1 inch thick by 12 inches by 12 inches. The walls are 2 inches thick. At least that's the level of insulation that I would like. More R value. Now, well, let me show you what I got. So this is the first bay that I started with. I wanted to start here because this is right where the fireplace is, and if I needed to warm this place up because the chemicals were getting too cool, I wanted to have that done so I could scoot this back up. First, a lot of overspray. It's a learning process. This one was the next one. Again, a lot of overspray. Started down in the wells. You can see here, I started in the well and worked my way up, and then wanted to make sure to get under this lip. There's a lot of spots where it's not quite 2 inches thick, but it's good enough. This one here, by the time I got to this one, I was doing much better. I was starting to get it, same thing on and on. Again, still not perfect. Still some overspray, overfill. But all that's going to be cut off, and the extra chunks I can actually throw down in the base. Now, as we got over to here, the canisters were starting to run low. If you look down there, there's still a pretty good gap. So this will have to be rehit, and so will the rest of these. Okay? Now, I got about half the bus done. And I ran out. So that's $400 a pop, $419. I'm going to end up running into town and grabbing a second one, so that way I can finish off the lower portions down below, as well as do a little bit more on the inside there. And then fill in, well, first, hit all of these, because I've got my fridge moved out. It's a propane electric fridge. So that way I can get the rest of these. So, good news, bad news. Good news, I was able to pick up another canister, a set of canisters, and I was able to finish doing the bus. Bad news is, because it's starting to get cold, it's dipping down, it's below 60 now, and the chemicals have to be at 70, I didn't get any footage. So, bad news. So it's actually very easy to take this stuff off. Like, you know, you just kind of follow the... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this finished up so that way I can start cleaning things up and get my bed back in here before it really starts getting a little damp out there. Well, good morning. So I worked late into the night last night trying to clean everything up and get it, you know, swept and moved to where I could bring my bed and other things back in. And I was able to do that. It took a lot of doing. Now, I have noticed that the bus does feel warmer, but it's still not warm with my wood fire going. You know, it takes the edge off and stuff like that, but it can get pretty chilly. With that being said, the floor is still not insulated, and the windows are not covered. So those are big factors right there. I'm pretty sure once I'm able to address those, that'll probably really warm this place up. Those are projects for down the road. Some of my final thoughts at this point on the spray foam, the handy foam. It's a useful product. I mean, if you've got a small area to do or it doesn't require much, sure. But for me, at this point, I would say I wouldn't use it again. Not when I go to do the rest of this bus. And the reason why I say that is because it took 2 kits, $420 a piece, 2 kits just to do below the windows. Now, there was a lot of overspray. There was a lot of overspray. And there's a lot of underspray. Now, I'm not perfect. I've never used the product before. But with that being said, for me, there was a contractor's garbage bag full of everything I cut off. Now, you know, that's my mistake. Those are areas that I went overdid. But I've never used it before. It's a learning process. The other thing is that there are some areas where, you know, even though I tried to get it filled in, you know, looking at it this morning, they're barely an inch, you know. So that affects our value, of course. And I'm not buying a 3rd kit just to do that. You know, that's just ridiculous. So for me, later on, I think, when I go to insulate the rest of it, because I'm going to delete a bunch of these windows at some point down the future. And I'd also like to do a roof raise if I can afford it. I also feel bad about not getting some video, especially when I had wanted to so much. Not only get video of me spraying everything down, but also get video of me actually, like, you know, showing, like, with where the gun is, you know, like what I'm doing, you know, kind of showing the process. So that way, you know, that would have been helpful for me. Now, there's a couple of things I can share with that. Like, for example, when I was starting to spray down in the wells, I thought it would, you know, foam up and, you know, actually like kind of come through pretty quick, and it didn't. It actually took forever, and then it would start to overspill. So kind of be prepared for that. The other thing is that when you're going and you've got the little gun and you're spraying, like, you know, I was doing a zigzag pattern across. If you have it kind of at an angle, it'll basically like hit and spray off. If you go straight and you just kind of move your hand and keep the gun straight, that'll actually make it stick better. So you don't have so much, you know, spray off. Alright, so let me show you what I'm talking about here. If you look right here, there's a gap in that seam. A little bit up there too. right? Up in here, it didn't get all the way to the under the sill. And that can be kind of a problem later on. Now for the most part, they look okay. That one is a little bit low, but it's not bad. That one is also a little bit low, but it's not bad. I do want to get another can, just a regular can, and kind of fix those gaps just to be on the safe side. And most of the ones on this side are mostly full. In fact, this side I had to do a fair bit of trimming on. Alright, well that's enough for me. That's enough for this one. I'm sorry I didn't get some of the footage that I wanted to get and that I really wanted to show, but that's a part of the problem with not having extra hands. Anyway, I'll catch you again later. We're gonna move on here in a little bit to the next stage, which is looking to be flooring, or floor insulation, I should say. And I've got to move in phases on that, and I'll kind of show you my process. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Stick around. There's going to be more good things showing up.